to war with your ego, the more you will be stuck. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mind Engineer Community. Here, Tony Walker sharing insight and tools to help you start making changes because, as a lot of people are talking about this, the world we see has to do with a lot with our belief system. The options that we're able to see are defined most of the times by our belief system. So when we start understanding how the mind works, it makes it easier. I'm not saying easy, but easier to start making changes. So one of the things I want to talk today is about the famous ego. I've been studying the mind now for 17 years, and I've studied so many people out there, and I keep seeing over and over again people talking about the ego as if it were something bad, as if it's something that we need to destroy. It's something we need to kill. I even have seen in different spiritual groups that, the ego death, they call it, right? And unfortunately, that is the ego playing games with you. Why do I say that? Because the truth is, if we come from spirit, if we come from love, from heart, we don't want to kill anyone. We don't need to kill anyone. The thing is, when we come from ego, we want to change, we want to destroy, we want to, fight, we want to force. And unfortunately, what happens is that nothing seems to change when we come from that mentality. Very few people are able to start making changes in their life by coming from this place of trying to kill the ego, destroy the ego, force the ego, shut down the ego, or whatever else name you want to put to it. Fighting the ego is going to get you more stuck than really be able to allow you to start making changes. So how can I start making changes? First of all, is coming from the heart, coming from love. So asking myself, this is a good question you can ask yourself, right? When I'm saying that I got to destroy this, that I need to change this, that I got to get rid of this, where are you coming from? Are you coming from love, or are you coming from, control, authoritarianism? The idea is to start being able to see your intentions. One of the things I was reading again, the book from Brené Brown, Dare to Lead, that she said that what's most important, this is something that my spiritual teacher would say all the time, is what's most important is the intention, not so much what you do. Because I could go meditate to stop the pain, or I could go meditate to see why the pain is there and just to hold space for the pain that I'm feeling. I could go eat some chocolate, I could go eat some sugar because I want to feel, I want to enjoy the food. There we go, enjoy it. Or I eat sugar to numb the pain of what I'm feeling inside of myself. So anything you do with the intention to protect yourself is ego. Anything you do when it's coming from love, unconditional love, loving that part of you that you're supposedly trying to change, the more you're able to love and accept that part of you, understand why it's there, what it is protecting you from, that's when we're able to start dissolving behavior, not changing behaviors. Most people want to change behaviors. Changing behaviors, again, comes from ego. I want to be in control. I want to change this. But if I understand that, imagine I'm procrastinating, as I will talk about this, procrastination is not the problem. And if I come from ego to destroy the ego, if I come from control to try to control the ego to stop procrastinating, what I'm doing is creating more pain. So let's go back, reverse engineer procrastination, right? Procrastination is the byproduct. What is the byproduct of something it's protecting you from? Okay, what is it protecting me from? So the idea is I'm procrastinating, imagine this time of the year, a bit earlier, but doing the taxes. I have talked along all these years with a lot of people that they find themselves procrastinating doing the taxes. So when I ask them, okay, why do you think you're procrastinating? And they're like, oh, I don't want to do them. No, they're pain in the butt, whatever. And it's like, okay, I get it. It's uncomfortable, blah, blah. what is really going on deeper. When we start going deeper, they find normally many of the people I work with that they start beating themselves up thinking of the idea of how much they're going to have to owe the government, as they didn't arrange their money in a specific way where they said, okay, I'm going to separate 5% per month, 10% per month to just in case for my taxes. What they did is they spent the money ahead of time. So now when the taxes are coming, a lot of people owe the government, because if you didn't owe the government, I'm pretty sure that you do the taxes very fast to get the money that you should be getting, right? But normally what happens is a lot of people owe money, and the people that are not doing the taxes is normally people that owe money. So what is going on? They're scared of what they're going to tell themselves when they find out how much money they owe to the government. So the procrastination is a protective mechanism to avoid the beating up if they owe a lot of money to the government and they didn't plan for that. So again, is procrastination the problem? No, it's a solution to a deeper problem. So again, if I go into war with my ego, I'm going to tell my ego, the part of me that is trying to protect me from that beating up that I'm going to give myself for how much money I owe the government, as I'm trying to protect myself from getting there. Now, when you start beating yourself up for procrastinating, you're creating more pain. Procrastination normally is a protective mechanism to avoid pain. So if I'm beating myself up that I'm procrastinating, I'm creating more pain. If I'm creating more pain, I'm going to get more of what I don't want. So I'm going to get stuck. Seriously, normally the behaviors that you're using, the way you talk to yourself, different things, are the same things that are creating the behavior that you don't want. So imagine that you're smoking and you want to stop smoking, so you beat yourself up to stop smoking. That creates more pain. And maybe you started smoking in the first place because you wanted to numb some inner pain. So you started smoking to numb inner pain. Now you're beating yourself up for smoking, but actually smoking is used to numb the pain. So what are you going to need to numb the pain more? Because now you're creating more pain. You're going to hold on to the same behavior that you're trying to change out of pain. So when we start understanding this, instead of going into war with the ego, I want to invite you to start understanding that what the ego needs is love. Ego wants to be held, wants to be seen, wants to be loved. Whatever opposite of that you bring, judging, criticizing, rejection, fear, whatever it is that you bring to ego, I need to stop smoking because if not, I'm going to die from lung cancer. That is not loving. That is authoritarianism covered up with, survival or whatever you want to call it. So again, it's not working for most people. Most people are stuck in their life because they're trying to make changes through authoritarianism, judging themselves, rejecting themselves, being cruel to themselves. But that in itself, that behavior is creating exactly what they're trying to stop. That's why I say it, that when you go into war with your ego, you're going to get stuck because you're going to create more of what you don't want. You're not doing it on purpose. It's happening subconsciously because you're not even aware of what's happening subconsciously. Most people beat themselves up when they fall into anxiety. So they go into war with their anxiety, when actually the anxiety is a symptom of something much deeper. Smoking is a symptom of something deeper. Emotional eating is a symptom of something deeper. So the problem is not what you're seeing in the surface. The idea is to be able to explore the mind, go deep to understand what's happening subconsciously. So one of the things that we can do to stop going into war with the ego, realizing that actually the ego is trying to protect you. It's not trying to screw your life. Although it might be bringing pain, it might be causing stuff, remember that the ego is always looking for the least pain, the lesser pain. What does that mean? If I do the taxes and I found out how much money I have to pay for the government, and it's going to be much more than I expected, or it's going to be much more than I planned for, I'm going to feel so crappy. I'm going to feel so much pain. I'm going to start beating myself up that is more painful than not doing the taxes. Doing the taxes is more painful than not doing them. So most people go into not doing the things that they need to do. So they go into war with the ego instead of actually embracing what is, understanding what is. That's where I teach the hugging yourself, loving and accepting what is, because that's the first step to validating, recognizing the ego that is getting in the way. But to be able to integrate that part of you, dissolve the behavior that you've been struggling so many years to change, but it's not working. Why do you think so many people go from diet to diet trying to lose weight and they're not able to lose weight? Because they have not explored into their subconscious mind why they're struggling with food. Instead, what they're trying to do, again, from ego, control, trying to manage the diet that supposedly is going to bring the loss of weight. And some people might do it, but eventually they go back to their old weight. They go back and now they think that it's a diet, it's a gym, it's a personal trainer, or whatever. And they start blaming other people instead of really understanding, okay, what is going on within me with food? What is my relationship with food? Am I using food to protect myself? If so, what am I protecting myself from? When we're able to start exploring the mind, seeing the ego as our best friend with limited information, now it makes it easier to validate, love, and accept the part of you behind the ego. Remember, in psychology, it's called sub-personalities. So we have different parts of us doing different things. One part could be using food to comfort itself, to stop, to numb the pain. So the more you judge yourself for doing that, the more you go into war with the ego, the more you're going to get stuck, the less you're going to be able to dissolve your behavior. So the idea is to be able to really embrace what's going on, love and accept the part of you behind the behavior. I'm not saying to love and accept the behavior. Love and accept that you're doing drugs, alcohol, or something. I don't know. Love and accept the part of you that created that behavior to protect himself. When you start doing that, it makes it easier to understand, be able to give yourself enough love to bring the dissolving of the behavior that you've been trying to change for so long. Let me know in the comments what you think about this, if it makes sense. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you love this, just subscribe to the channel. Sometimes YouTube doesn't show this to a lot of people, but the more you react, you comment on YouTube, more people get to see it. Or if you're on Facebook too, please comment. If you're watching live, #live. If you're watching replay, #replay. Leave me the comments and I'll read you afterwards. Thank you very much. I hope this helped, and we're going to continue to share more insight and tools. And if you want to go deeper, we have a free training. Just write the word free underneath, and we'll share a free training that has more insight and tools on how the mind works and how to start being able to make changes in your life. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments.